off, measure on, measure off for the 12 bar. Now we're only giving ourselves a select amount of time to play. So now we have to think about what we're playing more, right? When we get to that, and then it's like, where am I going? Because we don't really. We don't see the end of that phrase when we're starting the phrase. You know what I mean? So the construction of it isn't there. Now, what happens when we put this on, is if I'm saying like, all right, I can only play for one measure, and then I have to end it. I have to be thinking of the end of this before I even really start. You know what I mean? Or at least as soon as I start. Now, what tends to happen here is we use our notes a little bit more wisely. If we don't have this endless stream. I mean, a lot of times you didn't need this, but a lot of times I won't let a student use anything other than like 10-8, 10-8. Like they have to stay there, right? And then sort of feeling that out and letting it get boring and letting it get repetitive. Now, if I do something like this, if I say, all right, now I'm going to use my note choice wisely. I'm going to build a little tension. And then a little bit of a release, and a little bit of tension, and a little bit of release when I have that sort of first measure, lick, break, third measure, lick, and then a break. I'm going to build a little tension, and then on the third measure, release it. And then do the same thing for the next line on 5 and 7. Now I'm starting to think a little bit more of, all right, I only have X amount of time and notes to play. Let me really, really think about what I'm doing. So if I were to do that, we had two. And then I can even do the same. Just add that little last note. Now that starts to, as not wild of a solo as that is, that starts to make a little bit more sense. Now, if I was out at a jam session or just sort of like passing the guitar around to a few people, if we were just sort of playing a blues thing, if somebody were to play something like that, my immediate thought would be like, they really know what they're doing, right? And then if somebody came into that same thing and was sort of like, I'd be like, you start to lose me like right away. You know what I mean? Not understanding that idea of cohesiveness is so necessary. So now I'm playing, right? And that note, that 8 is giving me that tension, and then resolving it right on the root note, right? And then I can do the same idea. I sort of played like the same thing except added like the double note. That little bit of a change still draws from the same idea, right? And then we're now when we get so good at mimicking and playing the same thing on purpose, we know how to change it just enough to still keep it interesting and not do. And it's like, all right, that's interesting, but like those didn't really have too much to do with each other, and now we're starting to get a little bit further away. So let's try the same idea, right? See how close you can stick to each one of those licks. And then do you remember the which notes were the tension notes and which notes were the root notes?